She's having some
Right.
problems with that.
What about the LapBand? Before you choose to have a mini-gastric bypass, think about having a LapBand. The other choices that are out there that are popular are the old RNY gastric bypass. And there are a couple of other ones. The brand newest one is something called a sleeve gastrectomy. And then probably the most radical one is something called the biliopancreatic diversion with duodenal switch. And we can kind of summarize those quickly and then maybe talk more about any one in particular. Probably the one most commonly done in the United States is the RNY gastric bypass. That's kind of the foundational surgery for a long time. The problem with it is, although it's pretty effective, it does have a moderately high failure rate. Think of all the national celebrities that you can think of that have had it. And we think of Carney Wilson and Roseanne Barr had Roux-en-Ys. The former coach of Notre Dame is a guy named Charlie Weiss. He had a Roux-en-Y gastric bypass and gained all of his weight back. So one of the problems with the Roux-en-Y is it's pretty effective, but it also has a pretty high failure rate. One of the other disadvantages is that it's not easy to revise. So this morning we had talking about 2 people getting revisions, and that's terrible if you have to have a second surgery with the MGB. But the nice thing is it's very easy to do. So the revision rate with the MGB is extremely low. A recent publication from Taiwan, over 10 years follow-up of MGBs done by a surgeon there, had a less than 6% revision rate. And they were very easily done. The Roux-en-Y, if you want to test how likely it is to have a Roux-en-Y doctor do a revision, call up your local Roux-en-Y surgeon and say, I'm Susie Smith, I have a failed Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, would you mind doing a revision? And my experience is about 99 out of 100 doctors who do Roux-en-Ys will say no, I wouldn't want to do a revision. And if you get 1 or 2 doctors who say yes, they're either tremendously skilled, superb doctors or not very good doctors. So Roux-en-Y has the disadvantage of being a higher complication rate, more effective in the short term, moderately high failure rate, and very hard, if not impossible, to safely revise it. The LapBand came on the scene a little over 10 years ago in the United States and about 10 years before that in Europe, and it was hailed as the new solution. Short, simple, easy to do, and effective. And in Europe, where they've had the band longer than us, they're seeing, as we have time go by, between a 50 and 100% failure rate over time. So the LapBand is wonderful because it's short and safe and revisable and reversible, but the disadvantage is an extremely high failure rate. And the other thing that's a slight disadvantage is you can't eat very much, but the ghrelin hunger hormone's still there, so those people still say that they're pretty hungry. We like LapBands because right now about 6 to 7% of all of our patients are revisions of LapBands to MGBs. So if you want to talk to some LapBand patients who failed, you can contact our office and we get you in touch with hundreds of those patients because we see them all the time, including somebody who's sitting behind you right now. The other choice is the sleeve gastrectomy, and the sleeve gastrectomy is a lot like our surgery in the stomach part, but by itself it's usually not very effective in our experience. Plus it's not reversible because they throw away half of the stomach. The biliopancreatic diversion with duodenal switch is probably the most difficult to do surgery. It's irreversible, and we got excited about it about 10 years ago, thinking maybe I should offer it. So I joined a mailing list and kept track of how much people lost on the emails having had that for about a year. If you look on the emails if you join a mailing list, oftentimes at the bottom of their signature they'll say starting weight, present weight, goal weight. So we did that and plotted that out for a year on an Excel spreadsheet, and basically the weight loss for the biliopancreatic duodenal switch, which is a big, dangerous, difficult, irreversible surgery, was no better than the MGB. So our opinion, which is biased, is that the MGB is better, and so we thought, gee, how can we ask our patients to help us get this kind of information? Because we would be in clinic and somebody would say, you know, my wife has a Roux-en-Y gastric bypass and gained a lot of weight back. And so we said, gee, why don't we take advantage of our patients And during their follow-up, let's ask them if they have a friend or family member or acquaintance that's had weight loss surgery. So we did. We now have about 2,000 responses to that question. So we asked, do you know anybody who's had a LapBand? For all these, about 50% of people knew somebody who had another weight loss surgery. Of the 50% of people who had a friend or family member that had a LapBand, a little under a third of patients said that their friend or family member or acquaintance had done well with the band. The other 60 or 70%, 70 or more percent, had either gained all their weight back or had a complication. We asked the same question of people, do you know anybody who's had a Roux-en-Y gastric bypass? And similar kind of breakdown, 30% did well, 30% plus had gained all their weight back, and 30% had a complication. Then we said, do you know anybody who's had an MGB? And 91% said yes. Of the half knew somebody, 91% said those MGB patients had done well. And 3% had gained their weight back, and 6% had a complication. So we recommend contacting the local LapBand doctors, go listen to them, get a list of 10 or 20 or 100 LapBand patients, and just chat with them and see how they're doing. The studies from Europe suggest they do great in the first year or two, not so great in year 3 to 5, and as they get towards 10, it gets close to 50 to 100% failure rate as the longer time the band is in place. We like the MGB because it's short and simple, it's extremely powerful, it's very effective, has a low complication rate, and it's revisable and reversible. And so it's short and simple with an operating time that's less than a LapBand, and it's more effective than the LapBand or the Roux-en-Y, and equally effective as the most difficult, most dangerous surgery, that's the biliopancreatic diversion, but it's also reversible and revisable. So my biased opinion is we like the MGB. So that's